The stage is set for a historic matchup between Michigan and Ohio State. Two undefeated teams, two fan bases that absolutely hate each other. Two teams that have a whole lot of axes to grind. Coming at you this week in Ann Arbor.
I am bitterly resentful at the way this thing was handled.
Is in trouble and sack. Loose ball. Picked up. Michigan has it. Touchdown Wolverines. Derek Moore with the fumble recovery. Michael Barrett with the tackle. And Jesse Minter is a happy man because the Cardi boys have forced an early turnover here in College Park. Jawing, so that'll do it. 31-24, the final score. The Michigan Wolverines remain undefeated. The university records its 1,000th win. Most by any school in NCAA history.
Earlier in the 2023 season, I spoke about how no one believed in this 2023 Michigan team, and some of you out there questioned me. Some of you out there said, gee, Phil, I think you might be speaking in a little bit of hyperbole. Well, do you believe me now? With everyone against Michigan and everyone convinced that Michigan is descending and Ohio State is ascending, that's how we enter this version of the game. Michigan struggles with Maryland and wins a close game on the road, and everyone says, oh, see, Michigan's done. Ohio State earlier in the season struggles at home with Maryland. No big deal. Ohio State barely beats a weak Wisconsin team on the road and pulls a miracle on the road at Notre Dame. And everybody just says, yeah, wow, look at Ohio State. They've really come a long way. Michigan destroys Minnesota on the road. No big deal. Probably because of sign stealing. Ohio State blows away Minnesota at home, and everyone says, see, Ohio State's peaking at the right time. They're just going to go into Ann Arbor and roll Michigan. This could not set up more perfectly. What my belief is that Michigan is better than Ohio State. Except at the wide receiver group, Travion Henderson's probably the best running back that's going to be in the game. But on the defensive line and offensive line, Michigan is better. At quarterback, Michigan is better. So we'll see if J.J. McCarthy's healthy. But we're going to cover the game in depth a little bit later in the week. Today, I want to talk a little bit more about this whole sign stealing and advanced scouting and get into the fact that I believe that pretty much every team in the Big Ten is guilty of what these teams want Michigan to face the death penalty for. So we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more on today's episode of Wolverine Fan Therapy. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Phil Kane. A little under the weather, which is a good omen. So I'm the host of Wolverine Fan Therapy, Phil Kane. It's a good omen because I got sick over the weekend and on Monday, and that's a good omen because in 2021, the week of the Michigan-Ohio State game, I got really sick, got COVID, and for like the third time, and then in 2022, the week of the game, I also got sick. Guess what? It's the week of the game. I got sick. It looks like we're going to make it 3 in a row. So I want to talk today a little bit about sign stealing and the whole advanced scouting and this whole debacle, and some questions that I would really like to ask, and I wish some reporters would ask. We had poor Harlan Barnett, the Michigan State interim coach, this guy who was handed a big shit sandwich with the Mel Tucker debacle, who was handed this, but he really kind of let the cat out of the bag in his post-game press conference after Michigan State played Indiana, with his lauding praise and just simply gushing about Indiana's sign-stealing prowess. He even called it elite. So let's go right to the tape and hear what poor Harlan Barnett had to say for himself.
Like we saw against Michigan, just wondering what was behind that.
Well, Indiana is known for they're known for doing it, getting signs in game the correct way. So, in the game, if you over there sitting, I'm looking to the sideline, I can decipher what you're doing. That's fair. Other stuff isn't fair. Whenever we play Indiana, we know that's what we got to do. If you go back to last year, if you look at last year's game, you would see the same thing because they're elite at doing that. Some people become elite by other measures.
So when I hear Harlan Barnett saying these things, the questions I have to ask are, well, when you refer to other stuff, how do you know that Indiana doesn't do other stuff? How do you know that Indiana doesn't do advanced scouting? I don't recall anyone hiring a private investigation firm to do a full investigation onto Indiana's sign stealing team. How do we know they don't have a sign stealer on staff? How do we know that they don't do advanced scouting? How do you know that they don't videotape with cell phone cameras future opponents that they play? Why do you not care? Why are you so accepting, condoning, even complimentary of Indiana's sign stealing, but yet Michigan's sign stealing is the greatest scandal ever in the history of college football? We have to bring down Michigan's program. We have to punish Michigan right away, immediately, without any kind of an investigation. We have to have a kangaroo court, jump the shark. We have to just put them down. Jim Harbaugh should never be allowed to coach again. That's interesting. That wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that Michigan is your arch rival. You have to remember that Harlan Barnett's athletic director was the one leading the charge against Michigan and advocating loudly that Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti punish Michigan immediately. Don't wait for any kind of investigation. We have to punish them because player safety is at stake. His whole case was basically, if Michigan knows the play that's going to be called, wow, players could get injured. I mean, who knows what could happen? Well, if Harlan Barnett is saying basically that Indiana is doing the same thing, they're elite at sign stealing. That's what he just said. Well, then doesn't that mean that they know the play, which wouldn't that mean that players are also at risk? Am I missing something here? The whole idea is if you know the play, they're at risk. But this is football, right? I mean, there are times where you know the play. I mean, if you're losing by 10 points or 7 points and it's the fourth quarter of a game and it's 3rd and 15, you know the other team's going to throw the ball, which means you can send your rush ends on just a complete kamikaze mission to kill the quarterback. This happens every week in games all around the country. This is football. Well, is that somehow against player safety? You don't think the quarterback has parents and loved ones that are concerned about their player safety? How about when you know that a team is probably going to throw the ball, so the running back is going to have to pick up a blitzing linebacker? That's a 200-pound running back trying to somehow pick up a 250-pound blitzing linebacker running at full speed right into him. You don't think that's dangerous? Doesn't that happen every game in football? Well, that's what we're talking about, right? Or is the reality that Mark Hollis, the athletic director of Michigan State, was lying the whole time? It was all a ruse. He doesn't give a crap about player safety. He doesn't care about your players, their players, Michigan State's players. He doesn't care about anybody. He cares about one thing and one thing only: taking down Michigan. He hates Michigan, and this is his opportunity to take them down. Because everything he does when he wakes up every morning is take down Michigan. You can call that whatever you want. I don't know. Maybe that's he's just representing what Michigan State fans and the entire Michigan State community wants. That's what they want him to do. Yeah, take down Michigan at all costs. Okay, but let's just call it what it is. This isn't about player safety. This isn't about fairness. This isn't about justice. If it was, well, then shouldn't we be hiring a private investigation firm to do a full investigation into every Big Ten team? Because I believe that most Big Ten teams are also doing advanced scouting. They also have grainy cell phone video. I've seen some of it. They also have pictures and cell phone video and videos of other teams' games, future opponents. So shouldn't we be doing a full investigation of all of them? My hunch is before we're done, there will be, if the punishment is suspension of the head coach, well, there'll be more than half the coaches in the Big Ten will be suspended before we're done. Because the reality is, we don't know who's doing advanced scouting and who isn't. Many assistant coaches come from other conferences where I've heard from people that this is also a regular occurrence. It's done regularly. Other teams in other conferences regularly accuse other teams of filming their practices, of sneaking into practice facilities and getting tape of practices illegally. So this is not a road that these people really thought about that we were going down before they did. But my belief is this could go on, this story could go on for years with all of the twists and turns. And where did this private investigation report come from? We're just going to set that to the side for a second because there's still a very large outstanding question of where exactly did this private investigation report come from? Who funded it? Who was the private investigation firm? Who hired them? Was it an insider at Michigan? Or maybe was it another coach of another rival team? I guess we're going to have to wait and find out on that. Now we're going to send it over to the illustrious Bill Burr for his take on this whole Michigan sign stealing debacle with and fellow Michigan alum Rich Eisen on his show. Bill Burr had this to say.
What do you think of the Michigan sign stealing stuff?
It's just somebody over there pissed somebody off and they decided to go after them for what everybody is doing. Like every single college football game you watch, people are covering their mouth like Joe Pesci in Casino. They're holding up a sign. There's like a slice of pizza, a picture of Urkel, and the sign for pie. Why do you think they're doing that? And then also, I'm so sick of them acting like stealing signs isn't an incredible skill. Trying to figure out the labyrinth that they've created that maybe gives you an advantage on one or two plays. And I guess if it's a 1-point game and you want to say that was the play that did it, it's just like they're not over there going like, throw the ball to 22 and you're like not supposed to look at him. It's all disguised. And if somebody can figure that out, fine.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Again, Phil Kane, Wolverine Fan Therapy. If you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy this content, please take action right now. Do us the biggest favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast on any podcast service. We're going to be back in another day or two with a full preview of the Michigan-Ohio State game. Again, teaser for you Michigan fans. I think you're going to be really excited. There's not as much to worry about as you think. And my take is Michigan's the better team. So anything can happen in a football game. We'll have to wait and see for Saturday. But it's always better to be playing at home and have the better team. Again, please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll be back in touch soon. Go Blue!
I came to Ann Arbor in 1901. A stand seated 800 people.
You mean 8,000, don't you, really?
No, I mean 800. The very next year, D.M. Ferry gave 21 acres, which was the beginning of Ferry Field.
Here's Tom Harm.
And I just happen to be lucky. I've got the greatest bunch of blockers in the world, and they're sitting right down there, and you can knock them down for anybody, and that's really a pleasure, and I mean that from the heart.
And there it is.
what has to be the upset of the century. In this centennial year of college football, what a ball game we have seen here today. And the jubilation and cheering celebration will go on long into the night in old Ann Arbor town.
Under center is Wangler. The 45, he goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to fire.
Runs Howard back over. Look at that. Oh, my goodness. One man. Goodbye. Hello, Heisman. 39. Michigan needs to get to the 15 to keep it alive. And he throws. It's caught by Edwards. Into the end zone. Michigan wins. An amazing comeback for the Wolverines.
You are looking live at the nation's largest stadium on a historic night.
The long drought is over. Ohio State is vanquished.
Michigan defeats Purdue 43-22. The Wolverines are back-to-back Big Ten champions.
The clock hits 0 and Michigan gets the 1,000th win in program history.